Well, good morning, folks. Welcome to my daily video. And as you can see, I am outside enjoying the fresh air, giving my pup a chance to run around. I do hope everyone had a good night. I was up late. Have you ever, I'm just curious, not that anyone watches these, not many people watch them at least, but I did, it's nice to have times where you're doing something that's completely just for you. And so I was watching Jane the Virgin, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. And I got to thinking until about 1:30, I was watching YouTube videos, and I got into like this, I don't know, sometimes when I get into my shows and I have, I think a piece of pollen just literally flew up my nose. Anyway, Jane the Virgin's one of my favorites. I think about my shows that I can watch over and over again. I have I have a lot of them, 10 or 11. And then I watch about triple that amount right now. But yeah, I got into Jane the Virgin, and then I was like, I want to watch some Jane the Virgin, because the main couple on there that I like is Jane and Raphael. And I was watching YouTube videos about them, tribute videos that people have made. Then I got into watching Lois and Clark tribute videos, then Ross and Rachel tribute videos from Friends, then Pam and Jim from The Office, then who else? It was like a lot. I got to thinking about all the shows I watch. Just checking on her. We saw Rabbit earlier. Yeah, and it was just a glorious 2 hours of just watching tribute videos on YouTube. But it was just nice because it was like, I don't know, it was a good moment. Anyway, so let's hear some reflection that has nothing to do with TV, right? So, what do I need? What do I need to live at my best? Truth and courage, not purpose and strength. Truth and courage are purpose and strength. They are the roots of everything powerful, everything spiritual. When you keep your truth in front of you and have the courage to keep moving toward it, through anything that arises, you live at your best. Even if I stumble, especially then, I began to walk more gracefully after that. I live for miracles in my life these days, not the earth-changing, light-bringing, soul-powering kind, but the ones that carve out a small space of peace, where before there was only the jumble of resentment, fear, and doubt. The ones that happen from choosing to live the right way, like coming to understand that forgiveness isn't about gaining a release from others, it's about gaining release from me. If I release my hold on what binds me, I can walk free and unencumbered, but I have to embrace the resentment, fear, and doubt to gain that. I have to own them, hold them again, so that I can learn to let them go, and that letting go is the miracle. And so, my friends, look for miracles today, and look for my dog. Hold on. Lemmy! Just checking on you. Anyway, she is part of my video today. Let's take a moment to pray. Father and Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debtors, as we forgive our debts, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. So, I do hope all of you are doing okay. I'm trying not to be too busy with things. I feel like it's part of how I identify. I feel a sense of peace when I get busy, which is a weird thing to say, but I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but I just know I'm trying to not get back into that pattern of busyness. And just enjoy my time and try to relax more. Because I had a few moments, but for some reason I have trouble truly relaxing. I don't know about you. Even before the pandemic, I had trouble relaxing. So I'm working on that. I am really working on that. But I do hope you guys everyone is doing okay in the midst of all this. Let's continue to pray for our country. Let's continue to pray for our world as we go through this global pandemic. We continue. Yesterday was a great day for our country. It was a big step forward when the Supreme Court ruled against, ruled in favor of supporting and abstaining, that LGBT can't get fired from their jobs for being gay or straight or however, for being gay or lesbian, however they identify. That was a big day. That was a big step forward, and it was just what we needed, right? Because right now we're going through, our country is just a mess. But that decision by the Supreme Court was that little glimpse of, when you're in the dark and you see like a little glimpse of light. I feel like that was a glimpse of light, my friends. And I feel like, I don't know, a part of me, as dark as things get, I do feel like we are inching toward the light, and we're getting through this tunnel together. And we are just kind of fumbling around at times, but I feel like we got a glimpse of that light yesterday, don't you? And I really do. And I know we still have a ways to go when it comes to racism and race relations in our country as well, but I just feel like that decision was a big one. It was a big victory. And so, and even in regards to the race relations, who knows what's going to happen? But I hear stories of statues, Confederate statues that are made for Confederate soldiers or leaders and stuff like that, and they're being like torn down. I mean, who knows what will happen at the end of all this? I know, and I don't want to get political, but I know that a lot of it will have to, our leadership would have to change a little. But who knows? Maybe we could get through this and see a whole new way of living, a whole new way of being. The Confederate flag is going to stop being raised or be shown at NASCAR races or something like that. So I have a sense of hope that maybe it's going to get dark and it's going to get scary at times, but maybe we're going to come out through this. And maybe it takes burning some things down to the ground. Not literally, sorry. That's not the right choice of words, especially after Wendy's. But maybe it does take having to demolish some structures and things that are in place now and start over again. And I pray that I get to see what a world looks like where people finally get to be who they are and be loved for who they are, and people are not judged by the color of their skin. So anyway, my neighbor's outside. So I wanted to read to you. I actually may go inside. Hold on. Lemmy! All right, the sun was getting to me. All right, so let's hear about our woman of the day, shall we? So it's Mother Teresa. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent, but it's fresh on my mind all the time. And I do pray that we get to see what a world looks like, where people are not judged for the color of their skin. That dream that MLK had, that others had. I pray we get to see that reality. I pray that I get to see what that would look like. I know right now we're still kind of away from that, but anyway, so let's hear about Mother Teresa. So that is a picture of her. Well, that's not really a picture of her. That one is. Lemmy! So she's outside. Our neighbors have a dog, so. All right, so Mother Teresa, nun and champion of the poor. Agnes Gonçalves was born in 1910 in a small town in Albania. She lived with her parents, sister, and brother in a large house with a pretty garden. Her family were faithful Catholics, and her mother taught her to love God and other people. Her parents were kind, generous people who never turned away anyone in need. When she was just 12, she had a vision that God was calling her to become a nun, so she continued with her studies and had to wait 6 years before she could travel to Ireland to enter a convent run by the Loreto nuns. She never saw her mother again. As a nun, she had to promise to love God above all else, and to commit herself to a life of poverty. She was happy to do this, and after just 6 months in Ireland, she was sent to India, When she took her vows, promising herself to God, she chose a new name, Teresa, after a French saint who believed in doing good by doing small things with joy. In Calcutta in India, with the Sisters of Loreto, Sister Teresa began her life's work teaching and caring for the poor. But Sister Teresa felt that God was calling her to do more. She needed to get out on the streets to help the poorest of the poor. After getting special permission from the Pope, she left the Loreto nuns and put on a plain white sari, dressing like the poor women she wanted to help. With just 5 rupees in her pocket, she started a school in the street, writing on the ground with chalk. Wow. There were, and still are, many poor people in Calcutta and everywhere. Sister Teresa looked, she saw hunger, disease, and suffering. One day, after watching a woman die in the streets, she decided to start a home for the dying, where they could live their last days and hours, with dignity and peace. Sorry, that wasn't part of it. At first, the work was lonely as well as hard, but it wasn't long before Sister Teresa was joined by other nuns who wanted to help her. The Pope let her start a new order called the Missionaries of Charity, and she became known as Mother Teresa. She wanted to help the poor, not just to die well, but to live better, so she started opening schools and orphanages in India and all around the world. One of her quotes is, "Poverty is even greater when it is poverty of the heart." And there's some more pictures of her. And she says, "The poor do not need our compassion or our pity, they need our help. What they give to us is more than what we give to them. Let us always meet each other with a smile, for a smile is the beginning to love." And so there are now more than 500 centers in more than 100 countries helping poor people to have better lives. Leaders from all over the world met with her, and she became a very powerful leader herself, making the world pay attention to the problem of poverty. And there she is, if you can see, helping someone. So in 1979, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, as with her many other prizes and awards. She gave all the money, including the money that would have been spent on an awards dinner, immediately to the poor. She continued her work for another 20 years, changing millions of lives. She began to have heart trouble in her 80s, but continued working until shortly before her death, helping those less fortunate than herself until her great heart could give no more. And so what a woman she was. Tomorrow, our Woman of the Day will be Rangera Matai, an environmental and human rights activist. And so I've always loved Mother Teresa, and I love the fact that she is someone that just spent her life helping those less fortunate. I mean, that was her life passion. That was what she devoted her life to. And so, excuse me a moment, I need to check on our dog. For those of you watching, you can see what our yard looks like. All right. So there she is. Hi, Lemmy. I know some of you are watching. Hi, Laurel. Hi, Summer. So our dog is pretty bad most of the time. So it's, you want to come inside? You want to come inside? You want to come inside and hear a little bit of Hunger Games? All right. I don't trust her as long as I can. What's that saying? I don't trust her as far as I can throw her. I don't. That's a saying. I can't remember who said it. But anyway, thank you for joining me on my daily video. I was outside for a little bit, but the sun was a little too bright. And as you can see, I show up as my true self in these daily morning videos because the hair's not exactly perfect. But I do hope all of you are doing okay before we get into Hunger Games. And just know that as we go through this road together, just remember that we're not alone, that we are walking through this road together. And so let that give us some sense of peace and some sense of courage even to face each day, and to do our best to not only flatten the curve, to help get rid of, with COVID, to help decrease the spread of COVID, but also decrease the spread of institutionalized racism. We can do what we can to help stop that. And so basically we do what we can to continue spreading the love that Jesus spread. And I think I'm preaching in a couple weeks, and I thought about my sermon title already, and having it be taking care of unfinished business. And I think of what Jesus did when he went back up to heaven. He gave his disciples charge and told them to go out and spread the gospel. And I think in a way that's kind of what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be continuing what Jesus started. So anyway, I've talked a lot today, my friends, but let's end with a little bit of Hunger Games, a little bit more of Hunger Games, and then we'll be done for the day. You don't have to hear my voice anymore. And so now Katniss, a fire came and almost took out Katniss, and what else happened? And then she threw up because she was running away from the fire, and then she threw up. So let's continue to hear a little bit of Hunger Games. I know I need to keep moving, but I'm trembling and lightheaded now, gasping for air. I allow myself about a spoonful of water to rinse my mouth and spit, then take a few swallows from my bottle. You get 1 minute, I tell myself, 1 minute to rest. I take the time to reorder my supplies, wad up the sleeping bag, and messily stuff everything into the backpack. My minute's up, and I lost my spot. Okay, I know it's time to move on, but the smoke has clouded my thoughts. The swift-footed animals that were my compass have left me behind. I know I haven't been in this part of the woods before. There were no sizable rocks like the one I'm sheltering against on my earlier travels. Where are the game makers driving me? Back to the lake? To a whole new terrain filled with new dangers? I had just found a few hours of peace at the pond when this attack began. Would there be any way I could travel parallel to the fire and work my way back there, to a source of water at least? The wall of fire must have an end, and it won't burn indefinitely. Not because the game makers couldn't keep it fueled, but because, again, that would invite accusations of boredom from the audience. If I could get back behind the fire line, I could avoid meeting up with the careers. I've just decided to try and loop back around, although it will require miles of travel away from the Inferno, and then a very circuitous route back. When the first fireball blasts into the rock about 2 feet from my head, I spring out from under my ledge, energized by renewed fear. The game has taken a twist. The fire was just to get us moving. Now the audience will get to see some real fun. When I hear the next hiss, I flatten on the ground, not taking time to look. The fireball hits a tree off to my left, engulfing it in flames. To remain still is to death. I'm barely on my feet before the third ball hits the ground where I was lying, sending a pillar of fire up behind me. Time loses meaning now as I frantically try to dodge the attacks. I can't see where they're being launched from, but it's not a hovercraft. The angles are not extreme enough. Probably this whole segment of the woods has been armed with precision launchers that are concealed in trees or rocks. Somewhere in a cool and spotless room, a game maker sits at a set of controls, fingers on the triggers that could end my life in a second. All that is needed is a direct hit. Whatever vague plan I had conceived regarding returning to my pond is wiped from my mind as I zigzag and dive and leap to avoid the fireballs. Each one is only the size of an apple, but packs tremendous power on contact. Every sense I have goes into overdrive as the need to survive takes over. There's no time to judge if a move is the correct one. When there's a hiss, I act or die. Something keeps me moving forward, though. A lifetime of watching the Hunger Games lets me know that certain areas of the arena are rigged for certain attacks. And that, if I can just get away from this section, I might be able to move out of reach of the launchers. I might also then fall straight into a pit of vipers, but I can't worry about that now. How long I scramble along, dodging the fireballs, I can't say, but the attacks finally begin to abate, which is good because I'm retching again. This time it's an acidic substance that scalds my throat and makes its way into my nose as well. I'm forced to stop as my body convulses, trying desperately to rid itself of the poisons I've been sucking in during the attack. I wait for the next hiss, the next signal to bolt. It doesn't come. The force of the retching has squeezed tears out of my singing eyes. My clothes are drenched in sweat. Somehow through the smoke and vomit, I pick up the scent of singed hair. My hand fumbles to my braid and finds a fireball has seared off at least 6 inches of it. Strands of blackened hair crumble in my fingers. I stare at them, fascinated by the transformation when the hissing registers. My muscles react, only not fast enough this time. The fireball crashes into the ground at my side, but not before it skids across my right calf. Seeing my pants leg on fire sends me over the edge. I twist and scuttle backward on my hands and feet, shrieking, trying to remove myself from the horror. When I finally regain enough sense, I roll the blade back and forth on the ground, which stifles the worst of it. But then, without thinking, I rip away the remaining fabric with my bare hands. I sit on the ground a few yards from the blaze set off by the fireball. My calf is screaming, my hands covered in red welts. I'm shaking too hard to move. If the game makers want to finish me off, now's the time. I hear Cena's voice, carrying images of rich fabric, sparkling gems. Katniss, the girl who was on fire. What a good laugh the game makers must be having over that one. Perhaps Cena's beautiful costumes have been brought on this particular torture for me. I know he couldn't have foreseen this must be hurting for me, because in fact I believe he cares about me. But all in all, maybe showing up stark naked in that chariot would have been safer for me. The attack is now over. The game makers don't want me dead. Not yet, anyway. Everyone knows they could destroy us all within seconds of the opening gong. The real sport of the Hunger Games is watching the tributes kill one another. Every so often they do kill a tribute just to remind the players they can, but mostly they manipulate us into confronting one another face to face, which means if I'm no longer being fired at, there's at least one other tribute close at hand. I would drag myself into a tree and take cover now if I could, but the smoke is still thick. It's still thick enough to kill me. I make myself stand and begin to limp away from the wall of flames that lights up the sky. It does not seem to be pursuing me any longer, except with the stinking black clouds. Another light, daylight, begins to softly emerge. Swirls of smoke catch the sunbeams. My visibility is poor. I can see maybe 15 yards in any direction. A tribute could easily be concealed from me here. I should draw my knife as a precaution, but I doubt my ability to hold it for long. The pain in my hands can in no way compete with that in my calf. I hate burns. I have always hated them. Even a small one gotten from pulling a pan of bread from the oven. It is the worst kind of pain to me. But I have never experienced anything like this. And so, will Katniss be okay? We will find out tomorrow on another edition of The Hunger Games. All right. So, my friends, God bless you. And may God's love be with you as we travel through these scary and unknown times together. Stay safe out there, my friends.